I can't think of a more patriotic way to celebrate the 4th of July than right here at a tea party with people who get it. Of course, I'm so grateful, like the rest of you, for our founding fathers who bravely signed the Declaration of Independence, and for our military who have preserved that freedom. My heart goes out to the Iranian people, the North Korean citizens, the Chinese and others who long for this kind of freedom to come together and gather. 20 years ago, in June 1989, I watched the TV in horror as the Chinese massacred their own students in Tiananmen Square. I already had my ticket in my pocket to go teach in China, university students in Tianjin, a city of 8 million people just 2 hours east of Beijing. Some of my students participated in those demonstrations, and some had lost siblings or friends. And I wondered, was I missing some students that I was supposed to meet that fall? One day as I was riding my bike in Tianjin, a man rode up to me and quietly said, do you know what happened on June 4th? I said, yes, we all saw it. It was on TV. And he said, good. And he rode away. That was all he needed to know, was that the people knew. So where's the camera? This one right here. I want to say to you, if you're watching this on YouTube, and you're in Iran or someplace longing to be free, you have every right. You stand up. You have God-given moral right to be free, and we here at the Tea Party stand with you. It is worth the fight. It's worth the fight. Don't give up. How many of you were at the Everett Tea Party on April 15th, tax day? Yeah, right on. So those of you who heard me speak that day, or at the Monroe Tea Party on April 27th, you know that I am concerned about our freedoms slipping away. For the first time in our history, our children are on the verge of inheriting a country worse off than that of their parents. I agree with the new senatorial candidate from Florida, Marco Rubio. Now there's a guy to watch, who said recently, and I quote, "I fear that my kids, if we don't change course quickly, will be members of a generation that will inherit a country less free, with less liberty, and less prosperity than the one I was left with. That's not fair," end quote. As government grows larger and larger by the minute, fed by unprecedented borrowing and spending, and our elected representatives who refuse to represent the people, much less actually read the bills they're voting on, many of us, and I'm sure all of us here, are reacting with alternating feelings of shock, dismay, and anger. Shock at the audacity of our government officials who seem to have a total disregard for the Constitution they've sworn to uphold. Dismay at the incredible debt that our children and grandchildren already owe before they've even had their first jobs. And anger about the legalized plunder of American citizens and businesses, all wrapped in feel-good language that's just a thin disguise of the truth. It doesn't matter, thank you. It doesn't matter how many television stations kowtow to this outrageous display of taxation without representation. We're not buying it. We're not buying it. And let me tell you why I'm not buying it. When I was growing up on a farm in the Midwest, my dad often said, and I quote, "No worky, no eaty." Now some of you might recognize that as a slight paraphrase of an ancient Hebrew text. This whole concept of equalizing resources or spreading the wealth by force is morally and ethically wrong. Yes, it is morally right to donate generously to those less fortunate, by your choice and cheerfully. But the minute you take someone else's hard-earned money by force, it's no longer charity, it's plunder. In fact, U.S. Representative David Crockett had it right when he said in Congress, "We have the right as individuals to give away as much of our own money as we please in charity. But as members of Congress, we have no right to so appropriate a dollar of the public money." On the farm, I learned how important it was to take care of the land, the soil, the water, the trees, the animals in our care. This is obvious to farmers because they want to not only have as healthy a harvest as possible, but also leave the farm in better shape for the next generation. I learned the close connection there is between the ownership of property and the way that people take care of things. One of my jobs was to drive a small tractor along the roadsides around our fields, pulling a trailer behind and stopping often to get down and pick up beer cans, bottles, and sometimes entire bags of garbage that irresponsible people had tossed out their windows. What a nasty job, especially on a hot, humid day in Illinois. But after doing this job summer after summer for years before we even got our driver's licenses, do you think my siblings or I ever tossed anything outside our car windows? That's teaching your kids to take care of the environment. People naturally take the best care of their own property. And this is not only true of physical property, but also of money, time, and resources. So government will always waste money because it does not have its own money. All its money is taken from you, the taxpayers, or printed out of thin air, thus devaluing the dollar, so we're back to square one. This is why there's absolutely no reason, historically or ethically, to expect government to do a better job of providing health care than the private sector can. Our officials should reread the Constitution and notice the words health and medicine are nowhere to be found. Don't waste our money on more layers of bureaucracy and inefficiency. According to our Constitution, the only way that the federal government should be touching health care is maybe to make it easier to transport across state lines. Now, okay, I could see that. That would make common sense in a country that was such a mobile society. But otherwise, it should be left to the states and to the people. I think most people would agree that there might be a place for state-level programs that help people in a true pinch. Programs such as Medicare for seniors, the CHIP program for children in very tough economic situations, legal residents and citizens only, mind you. I would also like to see health insurance attached to the person, not the job. We keep hearing about the 45 million uninsured, but according to our own Census Bureau, illegal aliens make up at least 6 million of the uninsured, and how did they get that head count? It's probably many more. The Congressional Budget Office says that actually only 20 to 30 million people are uninsured for an entire year, and as many as 15% of those are eligible for government programs. In fact, according to economists Mark Pauly of the University of Pennsylvania and Kate Bundorf of Stanford, as many as 3/4 of the uninsured could afford coverage but choose not to purchase it. Again, according to our own Congressional Budget Office, 60% of the uninsured are under age 35, and 86% are in good to excellent health. Put all those numbers together, and to me, it smells like another manufactured crisis.